Lesson 72 covers equations for circles. The main circle here that we're looking at, the center, when the center is at the origin, the equation would look like this. X squared plus y squared equals r squared. So the center point being 0, 0, and this is telling us that it has a radius of 7. And the equation would be x squared plus y squared equals 49. Big thing is, in comparison to other equations for circles, there is nothing happening to x, nothing happening to y, meaning adding or subtracting. Now if you think about it, it's telling you that you have the center point is at the origin. The radius is 7, so really you can count out 7 units, plot up 7 units, left 7 units, down 7 units, and you'd have all those points to construct that circle. Other equations of circles is obviously when you do not have the center point at the origin. So we use point HK. H, if you really think about it as an ordered pair, is x, and this would be y. So something is happening to x, something is happening to y, and we're using variables HK. So if you look at the equation here, notice that something is happening to x and something is happening to y. So here's the equation that you would set up. If you look at the example, well, it says that the center point is negative 4, 1. There it is. And this is basically h. This is k. We substitute our h value in down here. Now we have a positive 4. The reason why it's positive 4 because remember the equation is x minus h. So when you put in negative 4, it becomes a positive 4. Minus minus is a positive 4. Substitute in 1, we have minus 1. Tells us that the radius there is 3, and we get 9 because that is our radius squared. In example 1, we'll go ahead and give it a shot here. I like to go ahead and start off by starting off with that original equation for a circle. Next, I go ahead and put in our HK values. Those are our HK values. Remember, h is in relationship to x. So we'll substitute 4 and 0 in for h and k. When I substitute in for h, we have 4. When I substitute in for k, we get 0, and we know 9 is our radius. The big thing there is make sure that you square that 9 when you find the final equation of the circle. So we'll go ahead and simplify everything. We get x minus 4 squared plus y squared, because when we subtract 0 we don't really gain anything. And then we have 9 squared, which is 81. This step to here is normally the number 1 error. Make sure you square it. That being said, why don't you go ahead and try to plug through B, very similar to A, starting off with that equation there. Substitute in your HK values. So pause it and try to work through it. So substituting HK and R, here's what our new equation would look like. We substitute in negative 3, 7, and square root 131. After squaring everything, simplifying everything, we have x plus 3 squared plus y minus 7 squared equals 131 squared. In example 2, we're going to write an equation for a circle after completing some type of translation. So you start off with an equation given an A. Here's the equation given an A, and you just wrote those equations out in the previous couple examples. What I like to do is to figure out the translation is I actually try to plot that center point, because when the center point translates, the whole circle is going to shift. So I look at my HK values here. HK, now remember when you put in for H, how are you going to get that positive 4? Well, you're going to substitute in a negative 4. Remember the original equation there, you have x minus h, and that is squared. So the only way you can get positive 4 is by substituting a negative 4, and in for k there we would have 0. So negative 4 or 0 is your center point. Now if I plot that on a graph, here's negative 4, 0. This is our center point of that original graph. That point is going to be translated to the right 1 unit and up 5 units. So I would go to the right 1, up 5. There's my plot. Here's my new center point. That new center point is an ordered pair, which would be -3, 5. So basically that is your new HK values. So in order to write the equation of the new circle, you're going to use the new HK values, that new center point. So we'll start off by writing out that equation that we have, substituting in our new HK values, and we have x plus 3 squared plus y minus 5 squared equals 25. Reason why we're using 25 is it did not change from up here. That is already the r squared value. B, same scenario. Why don't you go ahead, pause it, try to work through it, figure out that original HK value. So in B here we find out the original HK value would be -16 and -9 to give us a +16 and a +9. We find out that the graph translates down 1 unit. When it moves down 1 unit, you're moving up and down, which is dealing with that y-axis. So it is dealing with -9. So if it shifts down a unit, your new center point is going to be -16, -10. Go ahead and write the new equation for it. Well, substitute in to the equation that we have up here, and we would get x plus 16 squared plus y plus 10 squared equals 7. This will conclude lesson 62, equations of circles.